Hey, Steelers fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Welcome to our Pittsburgh Steelers replacement video for JuJu Smith-Schuster. He's done for the year. We'll talk about that as well as 10 players they go out and sign or trade for to go ahead and replace the star wide receiver. First, though, help us get to 5,000 subscribers here on the channel. Megan and myself are trying to go ahead and build you guys the best Steeler experience you can find on YouTube. If you like these videos, go down below and hit that red subscribe button. All right, so let's jump into the news. And obviously, we talked about JuJu Smith-Schuster. We talked about it, or Megan did yesterday. But I want to get into not only the official news that has come out today, but also who they could look to go ahead and replace JuJu Smith-Schuster with, because, according to reports, they are already trying to go ahead and do so. So, if you're living underneath the rock, you didn't see this, you're just now joining our channel, you obviously know the fact that JuJu Smith-Schuster is out for the season with a dislocated shoulder in the win against the Denver Broncos. So the win comes at a cost, and that is, of course, losing arguably the best receiver on the Pittsburgh Steelers. He is officially done for the season. I heard little rumors that he could maybe come back if they went on a deep playoff run. Not the case. IR, he is done. Now, the news that I want to get into right now is the fact the NFL Network says the Steelers are already looking at replacement options. So this video is going to be dedicated on going through the internal replacement options, the free agent replacement options, and finally the trade targets they could go out and get if they want to do a full sweep in terms of bringing in somebody and getting JuJu Smith-Schuster's spot filled in. Let's start with the internal replacements, because the easiest thing for the Steelers to do is to just look from within. And as we talked about with the wide receiver depth chart, they are not thin at wide receiver. Now, just because Chase Claypool had a very good day, we'll talk about that more in a second here, on Sunday, does not mean that they can't have someone else step up, whether it's a James Washington, who has been in and of his own for trade news and trade rumors in terms of wanting to get out of Pittsburgh, but also a guy like Jamison, who we keep waiting to really burst onto the scene. Now's his real chance. I mean, Johnson has a real chance to go ahead and take over all the snaps that that JuJu Smith-Schuster would have had during the remainder of the season. So the hope is now, I think, at least from a beginning perspective, if they don't go out and bring somebody new in, it's these guys internally rising from, the second and third and fourth string wide receiver positions. Now, speaking of someone who did just that, Chase Claypool, his return from injury against Denver, you saw it on Sunday, was really good. 5 catches, 130 yards, that big one down the left side of the sideline, the touchdown, he was fantastic. I expect him to be the new number one. He really kind of was. I mean, him and JuJu were 1A, 1B, but now he's for sure going to be the number one wide receiver. How about James Washington? I mean, James Washington's whole thing was that he wasn't getting enough snaps and wasn't getting enough, looks as a wide receiver because there were, JuJu and Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson. Well, now there is no more JuJu, and so hopefully James Washington can step up as well as the trade deadline continues to approach. Maybe they trade him, maybe they don't, but here's his chance to go ahead and step up a little bit more. Let me ask you guys this. How will the Steelers replace JuJu? Will they go internally? Will they look from within? Type L down below. Will they trade for somebody? Type T down below. Or will they sign somebody? Type S down below right now in the comment section. Let's start with free agent wide receivers, though. Let's say they don't want to just promote from within, even though we all know that that's kind of the first move that they most likely will make heading into this week's game. But let's take a look at some free agent wide receivers. I warn you, they aren't great. And there's a reason why if you're a free agent wide receiver, October 12th? In the National Football League, you probably are either super old or super washed up. But again, I want to give you some names, give you some options in case they want to go ahead and sign somebody. The first one, we'll talk more about him in a second, but Larry Fitzgerald. Now, the odds of Larry Fitzgerald coming out of retirement to play for the Steelers are next to nothing, even though that was rumored this offseason. But technically, he is a name you could at least make a phone call to see if he's interested in coming back to the NFL. Same thing goes for a guy like Dez Bryant, who I think is completely washed, and yet his name was thrown up on Twitter in my DMs a couple of days ago. And so, sure, I guess you could, but Dez has proven, even during his stint with the Ravens, that he's just too old and too washed up. He's not going to be anywhere near replacement level for a guy like JuJu Smith. Justin Hardy is a name that's been thrown around just a little bit. Not a big fan of him. Golden Tate, to me, is the most likely name on this list because he at least has recent NFL experience and has some upside in the fact that he likes to play in the slot as well as they move JuJu in and out of that over the past couple of seasons. Anthony Miller is also a name we'll talk about here in just a second, as he has been thrown around by the NFL Network. He's someone that, again, would not be of the caliber of or at least of a big name signing of a Larry Fitzgerald, but he would make sense in terms of adding a little bit of depth. Going back to Larry Fitzgerald, though, it's not that I think Larry can't play anymore in the NFL. I think he's still proven that he could at least give you, 30, 40 catches in a season. It's just that I don't think Larry wants to come back and play. If he really wanted to come back and play, the Cardinals would bring him back with open arms. And if he really wanted to play on a winning team, guess what? The Cardinals are the only undefeated team in the NFL. I don't see why coming over to play with, aging Big Ben and a struggling Steelers offense is something that he would want to do. I think Larry player is enjoying his retirement, and honestly, I respect him all the more for that. In terms of Anthony Miller, I mentioned him earlier. He is the one player that the NFL Network has reported has already visited with the Steelers. He will do so, or has, I guess you should say, this morning. It's a Tuesday when we're filming this. Maybe by the time this video is done, they will have already signed him, but I'm not saying if they do sign him that they wouldn't take a look at some other replacements as well, but looks like Anthony Miller, at the time of filming this video, has not been signed, but he is visiting the Steelers, and I think could be the guy that they bring in from the free agent list of wide receivers I gave you a little bit earlier on. Let me ask you guys this. Name a free agent wide receiver you'd like the Steelers to go ahead and sign. Is it someone on my list? Is it Fitzgerald? Is it Anthony Miller? Is it Dez Bryant? Or is it somebody that I did not put on my list of 5? Let me know who that is down below right now in the comment section. Now, before we get into the trade targets, the guys who could actually give you a lot more production than a free agent wide receiver, in my opinion, quick shout out to our friends at BetUS and the sponsor for today's video. Chatsports.com/bet is the place that you need to go to get in on all of the bet winnings that you can have when you bet on the National Football League. We have a great promo right now called, you just got to put in the promo code, check out Steelers125, get that 125% deposit bonus whenever you first sign up, meaning put $100 down, turns into $225 for you to bet on the Steelers, who did win last week. And so if you bet the Steelers, congratulations, you won a bunch of money. This week, Seattle comes to town. Pittsburgh, 4.5-point favorites. No Russell Wilson. Maybe another chance to go ahead and bet on the Steelers to win some even more money. Do it with our friends again, chatsports.com/bet. Use that promo code Steelers125. All right, let's jump into the trade targets who have been rumored to be potentially available at the NFL trade deadline. Therefore, they could be available to the Pittsburgh Steelers. We start with, to me, the most likely, that is N'Keal Harry of the New England Patriots. He wanted out before the season started. He hasn't done much during the NFL season, and the Steelers might just be, the Patriots might just be kind of like good riddance, get him out of here, and the Steelers could really get a guy who has first-round talent, at least did back when he was drafted a couple of years ago, for very cheap. I mean, a 6th or a 7th-round draft pick is probably all it would take to go ahead and sign a guy like Harry. I like him on the list. I think he's the most likely of the 5. Next is Jamison Crowder. There are 2 Jets that make the list. Crowder is the first one because they have a lot of wide receivers, and they're not a very good football team, and so why not get something for one of these, decent wide receivers? I think Denzel, Mims, and James Crowder are decent wide receivers, and they would go ahead and plug and play very well into the Steelers' offense. The next one is another Jet. It is Denzel Mims. He's been kind of on off the football field with injuries, but he had a ton of talent coming out of Baylor, a guy that I covered when I was at Baylor, and I think is a fantastic wide receiver. I think they would like to keep Mims over Crowder because Mims is younger, but if Denzel Mims, kind of says, hey, I kind of want to get out of the Jets and go somewhere else, Pittsburgh would probably be a good place to go ahead and bring him over. Likewise, the same goes for Allen Robinson, who, of course, is the Bears' #1 wide receiver right now, but the Bears' offense is very hit or miss when you have Matt Nagy and Justin Fields, and so I think if you're Allen Robinson, who's trying to get a new deal after this year, he signed a franchise tag, he's playing the final year of his deal, maybe go somewhere that can potentially get you the football a little bit better than Justin Fields could right now. That way you can go into free agency next offseason and get a big contract. The problem with Allen Robinson versus a guy like Jamison Crowder or Denzel Mims is that he is on the final year of his deal and might not re-sign with the Steelers. Brandin Cooks has been thrown around with the Texans, as Houston, of course, is a mess this year. They've played a little harder than I thought they would without Deshaun Watson, but even then, I think Cooks has been thrown around in terms of trade talks over the past couple of weeks. Keep an eye on him with the Houston Texans. And finally, I'll throw in a little dark horse here, Michael Thomas of the New Orleans Saints, who's still out with an ankle injury, but he had a lot of beef with the Saints even during the offseason, and so I think the Saints are looking to go ahead and move off of Michael Thomas. It's a riskier move because, again, he's not healthy, he hasn't played, but if you somehow were able to get the trade and then convince him to stay, he could become the #1 wide receiver in this offense and be really, really good for the next couple of seasons. A long shot to get any of these guys for trade, but these are the ones that are being thrown around in terms of being available, and so I want to give you guys that list here on our Steelers video. Name a wide receiver you would like the Steelers to trade for. Let me ask you guys this. Is there anyone on this list that kind of really gets you excited, really sparks your attention? Give me that name down below right now in the comments section. Finally, I want to wrap this video up by quickly just mentioning that the injury for JuJu Smith-Schuster is significant, not just because it impacts the Steelers this year, it impacts JuJu's future. Like, his future is very much in the air. You remember, he turned down more money from other teams to come back to Pittsburgh on a 1-year deal in the hopes of playing very, very well, and then getting a massive new contract when the salary cap goes up in 2022. How is this going to impact him going forward? I don't really know. I mean, I really thought that if JuJu came back this year, which he did, and played lights out, the Steelers would give him a big deal, and he'd probably play the rest of his career, at least the rest of his next contract, with the Steelers. Now, some other team might want to pay a little bit more, and the Steelers said, hey, he got injured, I'm kind of out, and he might move on after the season. And so the injury definitely has a big impact, not just on the Steelers from a football standpoint this year, but going forward with JuJu Smith's future in the NFL as a Steeler. Whether he's going to stay or go is yet to be seen. All right, all time for today on our Pittsburgh Steelers top 10 targets to go ahead and replace JuJu with. It's unfortunate to do this video because JuJu did get injured, but hopefully wish him the best and he can be healthy for next season, whether he's a Steeler or not. Make sure you guys are subscribed. We approach 5,000 subscribers here on the channel. We want to get to 5K, hopefully by the end of the week. If you guys like the channel, go down below and hit the red subscribe button. Again, I'm Thomas Mott. As we are out of time, we sign off. You guys enjoy the rest of your day.